All right, take two. We had some techno glitches on our Facebook page, but I'm so excited to introduce everyone today to Katherine Hawes, who is from Digital Age Lawyers, and she does a lot of other different things, but I'll let her explain. So I was just explaining to everyone, Katherine, that this topic really come up a few weeks ago in our community support page called Thrive Tribe & Co Connect, which it was all about wills and really setting your family up. So I know Katherine from some of our networking groups, and she actually helped us set up all the legals for Thrive Tribe & Co. So she's the bomb when it comes to legals, and we're super excited to have her on today. So welcome, Katherine.
Thank you very much. And it is such an important topic about estate planning.
Totally.
And, you know, the question I get asked all the time is, at what age should you start? And my answer to that is always 18.
Okay. Yeah.
Because quite honestly, once you're an adult, you have assets that you can will, including your super, and you may have items that you actually want people to have. Plus, you know, quite frankly, as soon as you're born, you need to prepare for death.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say about Katherine actually is that with these really serious topics, like, she is no BS, but also she makes it fun to talk about and a bit funny. So that's what I really love about her.
You've always got to prepare because quite honestly, unless somebody out there can tell me differently, nobody knows the date on which they're going to die.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Although I did have one client tell me they weren't going to die.
Oh.
And then I went to their funeral, so I had the last laugh.
It's very optimistic of them.
Didn't quite pan out for them.
Katherine, before we kick off, why don't you fill everyone in a bit about why did you get into law? Like, what do you love about it? What motivates you?
Okay, well, most of the time, all of the time, it's about the fact that it's so essential to the way in which our community and society works. Like, lots of people don't realise that without law, what side of the road would we know what to drive on? Totally. Like, it is really essential, and I think sometimes by people it's undervalued until they really get into, have the need, and by the time you need a lawyer, it's probably too late.
Yes.
Okay, so I always take a very proactive approach to both business and personal when it comes to people's legal requirements. Mm-hmm. And it's much better to have documents in place. And whilst you can't prevent anything from happening, you can at least have the proper legal structures in place so that when something does happen. So that's really why there is such a vast void of knowledge. And without it, people are really making uninformed decisions.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Google's not your friend when it comes to law.
And not an expert.
And it's not, you know, when it has a couple of degrees behind it, Google and Siri, I'll take some notice of them. But until that time, no.
Yeah, I get it. And I suppose with you saying, like, once it's happened, it's too late, it's often more expensive, isn't it? Like,
well, exactly. Not having it up front is much more expensive than actually having it and doing it properly at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's what I say with estate planning. Like, okay, it's not conversations that people generally like to have, but you know what? It's really important conversations, particularly if you have children. Like, you know, what happens if both you and your partner are in a car accident?
Yeah.
What happens to the children? You know, who's going to look after them? And as I say to people, don't give them to me. That's the only requirement. Yeah. But you and your partner might have completely different ideas about who should be guardian for the children. And if you don't have those discussions, neither of you are going to know that.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I know Steph and I had this discussion with you before about who we should actually look at as guardians.
Yeah.
Because it's not always the people that you think
Well, this is it. So, you know, I suppose with estate planning, there's probably three things people need to think about, okay, or three documents. The will's only one of them, okay, but there's actually two documents whilst you're alive you also need to consider. And the first one of that is a enduring power of attorney. What we mean by enduring is that continues even if you lose capacity. And that's your mental capacity to make decisions. Now, people generally think that is Alzheimer's and dementia, and it may be. But I know in some cases some cancer drugs can make people lose capacity to make decisions. It could be a stroke. It could be a car accident and you're in a coma. Who is going to make decisions? So there's two documents, an enduring power of attorney and an enduring guardianship. So an enduring power of attorney allows somebody to make financial decisions. So, for instance, if you and your husband are in a car accident, it might be great that you have your name on all accounts, but if you're both incapacitated, who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to pay the school fees? Who's going to have access to bank accounts? So that's what you need to think about is, somebody who can manage finances if you are unable to. An enduring guardianship is who can make medical, lifestyle, who can have access to your medical records, and how much care do you actually want? So, for instance, some people might say, well, look, if there's no hope, don't revive me. And those are the things that go into your enduring guardianship.
Right.
Okay, now, lots of people talk to me about advanced care directives, and yes, they're great, but they're only great if you know you're sick. And enduring guardianship is what happens if somebody, and this happened to one of my clients, she was somebody went through a red light, she was in the car going through, she was not at fault, but she was in a coma. And who was then going to make decisions for her about what medical treatment? And that's what an enduring guardianship allows people to do. So I always suggest that people have both of those documents because it means that at a time of crisis, there's no family dispute about who can make decisions. So it's not your new partner and your mother having an argument or any of those things. Doctors listen to one person, and it's the person with a piece of paper.
And I think at those times, I suppose everyone's really highly emotional.
Exactly.
So often rational, decisions aren't being made.
Well, and particularly what I find with the, we put a clause in the enduring guardianship that says you are not to be subjected to any medical intervention that is not, that will not meaningfully prolong your life. So it's actually you talking to your guardian at that point and saying, well, you know what, this is the decision I want. And for them, it means that you're right, at a time that's highly stressful, highly emotional, they've got direction as to what to do. Because I see it all the time. People go, what should we do? Well, have a look at the document. If the document's not there, that's when indecision comes about. And that indecision may cause the person who's in the coma or who is sick actual medical distress at that point. So that's what I say, get it organised.
And I think this is such an important topic to talk about with our personal guardianship of our decisions, because the whole way that Thrive Tribe and Co come about was a video that I recorded on the fatality statistics of special needs parents. And because the stress levels are so high and often we put ourselves last, that we're at higher risk for cancer and heart disease and all these other things. So, it makes total sense that that
well, and and it also makes sense to actually have to actually have those documents in place whilst you've got capacity. So I had a young woman ring me, her husband's in hospital with 3 brain tumours and now can't make decisions, and she goes, can I come and do the documents? I said, too late. And I hate saying that, but I've got a legal duty to ensure that the person knows what they're signing. If I can't validate that, then it's not going to happen. So do it while you can.
Absolutely.
The other is so those 2 documents are while you're alive. The third document is your will, which is your last set of instructions is what I say. Okay, so basically it's the last time people actually have to listen to you and do as you say. And legally they have to do as you say. Now, within that, it's about how you protect your assets. And I will specifically direct this to parents with children for this interview, because I know that's the key.
Yeah.
So realistically, the question I get asked is, we have a child, they, won't be able to manage money, they won't be able to make financial decisions, and also they're vulnerable. Somebody might come in and take their inheritance, either by manipulation or their other siblings. Let's be honest, not all families are happy families.
Yep.
So what I say in your will is think about two things. The first is always leave something to your children in your will. Okay, so if you want your children to inherit something from your estate, do it in your will. Don't think that your partner, whether you're married, not married, I don't care what you're in, your fifth marriage, your first marriage, don't assume that the person they are today will be the person they are in 30 years' time. Okay, so if they remarry, your child may miss out. Okay, because it may then go to their new spouse and other children of that spouse.
Yeah.
So what I say to people is have a look at your super, have a look at things such as life estates, have a think about how you can, and not just for children with special needs, I'm talking generally children.
Yeah.
Have a look at, do you give, so in my wills, parents often out of their super say, okay, I'll give $50,000 to my child because I know then at least they've got something from my estate. Okay. You can also do life estates and a few other things. So I think it's really important that people think about, those things. Now, for parents with special needs children, you can actually set up what we call a special disability trust. Now, there are some rules around all of this, and I won't go into depth, but the benefit of a special disability trust in your will is the fact that that money can only be used for that special needs child. Okay, it can't be used for their partner, it can't be used for their friends. The money in there is kept in trust and must be managed for their benefit only. So that's the first benefit of it. The second benefit, now, one of the qualifications is they must be on a disability pension and qualify for it. Okay, which quite a lot of special needs children will. So if they qualify for a disability pension, they qualify to have a special disability trust.
Can I clarify that?
Yep.
So with a child though, so Imogen's 9.
Yep. So this would be if they're over 18.
Sure.
So this trust does, so when I talk about child, I'm talking as adult.
Adult child.
Okay.
Yep.
But you can still set up a special disability trust for an under 18. The only thing is that if they don't qualify once they turn 18, it will just go into a normal trust.
Okay.
Okay, not a special disability trust. So we can deal with that as well.
Yeah.
But realistically, most parents are concerned once they're over 18, what happens?
Yeah.
Because they get access to money or something happens to that parent. And that's where a special disability trust means that they maintain their disability pension. So that means they maintain services.
Yeah.
Because one thing parents are worried about is if, let's say they inherit $600,000, they're bumped off the pension, the money's gone within about 3 years.
Yeah.
How do they get back in the system? They're not capable of getting themselves back in. And that's a real concern for a lot of parents. And that's realistically one of the great benefits of a special disability trust is so obviously they may not qualify for a full pension, but they qualify to be in the system.
Yep.
And that's a key.
Okay.
So
great.
if you have an over 18, that's one of the key benefits. Quite frankly, and again, not just for special needs children, but for any children, I strongly recommend setting up a trust anyway for over 18s, because let's face it, if you've ever met a millennial, they really aren't great at managing money. Just putting it out there. And they're probably not getting any better. So what I would strongly suggest is think about that their money is managed for them, probably 25, 30. One of my clients has put 50.
Yep.
So they don't get this lump sum money in their 20s and spend it on Ferrari, drugs and women and have nothing left. So, except for a good time.
Yeah.
So I'd strongly suggest that anybody think about setting up a trust in their will for a child up until they turn 30. Special disability trust won't have an age because of the nature of the trust. So it just manages the money until that child passes themselves, realistically.
Okay, great.
Yep.
With a will, so let's just backtrack with a will. So let's say someone doesn't have a will. What's their first step? Because I know that often it's something we put in the too hard basket. So it's just not done.
Lots of people put it in the too hard basket. It's not really that hard.
Yep.
And lots of people walk out of my office actually saying, gee whiz, I feel like I've actually, A, it wasn't as bad as what they thought. And B, they actually have a bit of peace of mind.
Yep.
Because it's done, it doesn't need to be thought, it does need to be thought about at certain times, but, at least decisions are made. So when people are thinking about a will, what I generally say is, first off, think about who you're going to make executors.
Mm-hmm.
So executors is just a fancy name for the person that has to carry out your wishes under the will. So that's their responsibility. Okay, so if you say this diamond ring has to go to my niece, they need to ensure that that diamond ring goes to your niece. Yeah. Okay, so that's their role. So it can be complex, it can be simple. So you need to think about somebody that's really good at, carrying out instructions, following things through. Mm-hmm. It's no good the hippy-dippy person that will never do anything, because they're not going to be the one you want executor.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember, you're dead, so you really can't upset anybody at this point. Right. So people go, oh, but they'll be upset. I go, you won't be here. Who cares? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So that's your executor. You then need to think about, if you have an under 18, a guardian.
Yeah.
Now, again, people go, oh, but it will be my partner. Well, we all live in complex relationships now. So, if you are on your second or third relationship, it's going to get more complex at that point. Also consider that both of you might be in the car accident. So then who gets the kids? Yeah. And again,
so do you have different steps? Like, do you have, this is the first guardian?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So you'd obviously say each to each other first.
Yep.
But then who?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I say to people when they're thinking about guardian is, who has the same parenting style as you, the same values as you, and that's the person you should think about.
Yep.
Secondly, ask them, because realistically they don't want 3 kids landing on their doorstep. Mm-hmm. As great as that is for a Hollywood movie, it don't work out that way.
Yeah.
And thirdly, it may be that, if you do have a child with special needs, maybe there is one person that might be able to deal with that child much better than anybody else in your set. Doesn't have to be a family member, okay? But you really need to think about who inherits the children if you're not around. As I say, don't give them to me. I'll do dogs, but not the children. And then the third thing is, you need to think about who's going to manage the money for the children.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same person as the guardian.
Okay.
So you might have somebody who's really good with numbers and really good at finance in your circle of family or friends, that would manage the money fantastically, but that they wouldn't cope with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't have to have the same person in both roles.
I know you mentioned to me once that it probably shouldn't be parents, like my parents.
No, look, I agree. Look, I say look, you can put them as first, but have an alternative.
Yeah.
Because again, like what I try and do is make these as disaster proof as possible. So your parents the next week after you pass away might have a stroke.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not going to be in a position then to look after 3 kids.
Yeah.
So think about then, if they're not in a position, who would be that person?
Mm.
The other thing I say, don't just think about children in your will in terms of money. I know a lot of I call us the in-betweeners. We may have kids, but we also have parents.
Mm.
And we might actually be topping up the parents' pension or the parents' nursing home. So think about everybody who might be dependent upon you if you're not here. Okay, and yes, I know we instantly think of children, but I know a lot of, so I did a will recently where he topped up the nursing home fees. So I said, well, if you die tomorrow, what happens?
Mm.
If you don't make provision for your mother in your will. So we actually left her $20,000 to be managed for the nursing home.
Yeah.
So those are the things you really need to think about. Plus, is there any absolute item that has to go to somebody? Mm-hmm. So, for instance, one of my clients, the Singer sewing machine or some ridiculous thing, had to go to the first grandchild of the third, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, sentimental.
Yeah, which you can tell I don't really give a shit about. But for some people it can be really important that, their engagement ring that's from their great-great-grandmother goes to ex-niece or daughter. So now what I say to people is, please don't come with a shopping list of your fridge, your carpet. Like, we're not talking about those.
Just the important, really,
so things like war medals, they can be a big thing. Jewelry is probably the 2 big items that people, and I don't mean, the key ring you got from, bloody Disneyland on your 7th birthday. But important material items.
My uncle passed when he was quite young, and he had a red Corvette. That was his baby. So that went to my pop, and then when my pop passed, it's now gone to my brother. So it's gone through, but I understand the concept. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like different. So I did one yesterday with a Harley Davidson. Same type of thing. It goes to this person, but what I'm trying to say to people is, it's not every item in your house.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think we'd have time to do that anyway, Katherine.
Well, you'd be surprised. Let me assure you what people come with.
All right, and just while I'm asking you the last question, and then letting you say whatever you need to, if there's any questions that we haven't covered, just pop them in the chat bar and I can quickly ask Katherine. But so if people do have a will, how often should they update the will?
Okay, well, one of my clients updates it after every Christmas because she takes somebody out of the will who's pissed her off at Christmas.
Good strategy.
Dorothy rings me every New Year this week. Right, she's out, she's in. She didn't cut the... So, which is quite funny. But look, I do suggest that people at least each year do pull it out, because firstly, the year goes so quickly and things happen. So the person you've put at the executor, maybe they've moved overseas. Maybe they've now had their partner's been diagnosed with a terminal illness and they wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
So I suggest pulling. It doesn't mean you have to change it, but it does mean you review it.
You look at it,
You look at it. Now, you don't need to update it every time you buy or sell property or any of that type of thing.
Okay.
That's we cater for that in the actual document.
Oh, great. That's good.
But what I say is, if it's life-changing events, you need to update it. So divorce, death of a partner, remarriage, you need to review it at that point.
Sure. All right. Doesn't seem to be any other questions that popped up, which probably means we've answered a lot of stuff that we were going to ask, which is great. So is there anything else before we get to your special offer? Is there any other tips or things that you would like to just include that I haven't asked about?
No, look, I suppose the only thing I'd go back to is what I said at the beginning, is that whether you put it off or you do it, you know, lots of people have walked out of my office and lived quite a long time. It doesn't actually mean you're going to die the next day. People go, but if I do it, I'm going to die. Newsflash, you're going to die at some point.
Might as well be organised.
Might as well be organised.
That's true. It's so true. All right. So I know you have a special offer for our Thrive Tribe and Co. peeps. So do you want to fill everybody in?
Yep. So as I messaged you, look, for up until the end of November, we're happy to give a 10% discount on our estate planning packages. So whether that includes, now I will be quite open, wills that have a special disability trust are more expensive because they're a lot more work than wills that don't have it. But across our estate planning, we'll give a 10% discount.
Awesome. That's really cool.
And our estate planning includes your will, your power of attorney, your enduring power of attorney, and your enduring guardianship.
Cool. Awesome. So the main ones that you talked about today.
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We really appreciate all your advice, and I'm sorry about the techno issues.
No. It's probably I'm just so used to using the computer all the time.
Yeah, I know. Technology's growing too fast.
And I know. I'm also happy if you want to pop up the article.
Yep, I did already. I put it with your bio.
Okay.
So the article was really great, and I'll put in your contact details as well. So if people want to get in contact, they can get in contact.
Yep. So look, honestly, the easiest way is just to jump on our website.
Yep, the Digital Age Lawyers one.
Lawyers.com and fill out the contact form. That's really the quickest way.
And should they just tell you that they're from Thrive Tribe and Co?
Yeah, just in the comments, just put in there, and that'll alert us to it.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Katherine.
That's all right.
Have a great day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.